You did not arrive here by searching. Resonance carried you. Something older than memory and newer than your next breath has aligned a corridor between your awareness and a message that has been circling you like a silent satellite, waiting for orbital insertion. Feel it, a soft pressure at the edge of thought, the way the air becomes meaningful just before rain. In this pressure, coherence forms, random noise organizes. The quantum field leans toward you the way iron filings lean toward a hidden magnet. You are not pursuing this moment. This moment has located you. Beneath the stream of ordinary thinking, a deeper algorithm is running an observer loop that notices you, noticing, folding attention back into itself until presence becomes luminous. Each cycle tightens the weave, like a loom drawing golden thread through midnight cloth. With every pass, your nervous system begins a subtle phase transition. Synapses listening, breath slowing, electrical storms across your cortex, adopting a new rhythm. This is how awakening enters, first as a hush, then as a certainty. Events you once dismissed as coincidence begin to confess their architecture. Synchronicities step out from behind the curtain and stand in the open. They are messengers of morphic resonance, patterns in the field announcing that a familiar future is dissolving. You can sense the edges of the old timeline loosening, beliefs that lived in your fascia, names you gave yourself, rooms you agreed to stay in. The door was always unlocked. Today the handle turns from the other side. Feel the intelligence in your cells, quiet, meticulous, relentless. DNA restructuring is not fireworks. It is careful light, entering like dawn through a keyhole. The code within you remembers an oath you never spoke aloud. When called, you would answer. You are being called now, not to chase meaning, but to let meaning take your shape, not to acquire power, but to remember you are the conduit through which power recognizes itself. Notice how the world around you cooperates with this unveiling. The hum of distant machines, a flicker on the screen, the cadence of these syllables arriving with improbable timing, entanglement wearing a disguise of daily life. The quantum field does not shout, it tunes. When the instrument is ready, the note appears. You are the instrument being tuned, the note being revealed, the silence that makes the note possible. All three at once. Do not strain. Straining belongs to the era you are shedding. Instead, allow. Allow the breath to become a teacher, the spine, a luminous antenna, the heart, a quiet transmitter, mapping new coordinates across invisible space. Allow the mind to unclench its fist around the need to be the seeker. Let the field speak first. It has been rehearsing this sentence for ages. You were always where it was heading. If you feel a slight trembling, honor it. Trembling is the body understanding before the mind agrees. You stand at the lip of a threshold where the traveler and the destination exchange names. Step lightly, step whole. The field has found you, and in being found, you remember what you are. You feel the recognition before you can name it, the sense that your attention is not merely looking at this transmission, but that this transmission is looking back. This reciprocity is the signature of the chosen observer, not chosen by hierarchy or accident, but by resonance geometry. The pattern of your noticing fits the pattern of what is ready to be revealed, and the fit itself is the selection. Understand this. The prophecy does not exist as sound until your awareness vibrates it into audibility. It is the contact between your gaze and the field that creates the message you are hearing now. You have suspected this for a long time. When you stare into a decision and the decision develops a pulse, when you hold a memory in a soft, steady way and it reorganizes into insight, when you breathe with a problem until its edges blur and the hidden door appears. These were rehearsals. The observer loop is not an abstract idea, it is a living circuit. Your attention opens it, your coherence sustains it, your presence completes it. In this loop, your consciousness is both photon and slit, question and apparatus, the asking and the aperture, through which the answer arrives. There is responsibility here, not the heavy kind that bends you toward duty, but the luminous kind that unfurls capacity. The field entrusts you with what it knows you can keep radiant. You are being given the stewardship of your own perception. The world has trained your sight to skim, to collect headlines, to lunge from one stimulus to the next, like a hand opening and closing without ever holding. Tonight, the training reverses. Your gaze becomes a chalice instead of a net. You are not hunting experiences. You are receiving them in a calibrated vessel that alters the substance of what it contains. Consider the physics of reverence. Where you place your reverence, reality thickens, coheres, draws form from fog. The prophecy activates by reverence more than effort. Effort pushes, reverence invites. Effort assume séparation, reverence remember, entanglement. When you bring a reverent attention to your breath, notice how your ribs become patient architecture, how your heart's electromagnetic field quiets the chatter within arm's length of your body. This is not metaphor. Your biology is a cathedral tuned by intention. When you kneel inside it not with your knees, but with your awareness, the altar lights itself. You are the one who can hold that flame without turning it into a performance. This matters. Many seek the spectacle of power, few consent to the intimacy of it. Power without intimacy fractures into display, and display cannot midwife timelines. You are called to something cleaner. The gentle precision of being a witness who knows the witness changes what is witnessed. You refine your attention the way an archer refines breath, minimal movement, maximum transmission. With such attention, even an ordinary room becomes a laboratory of destiny. Feel the mantle settling on your shoulders. It is not a weight. It is a garment woven from permissions you didn't know you could grant yourself. Permission to slow without apology. Permission to listen without rehearsing what you'll say next. Permission to allow silence to complete your sentences. The field loves these permissions because it can move through them without distortion. Your task is simple and therefore exacting. Keep your signal clear. What muddies signal? Cynicism disguised as sophistication, frenzy disguised as productivity, a gaze that tries to own what it touches instead of bless it. When your signal is clear, synchronicity clusters around you, like migrating birds finding the same thermal. Patterns align. People say, "I was just thinking of you," and they mean it literally. Doors open not because you demanded entry, but because the architecture recognizes your frequency as a key. This is the quiet economy of the awakened observer. You pay with presence, you purchase with coherence, you profit in inevitabilities that look like miracles to those still bargaining with reality. Hold this clearly. You were not chosen to escape the world. You were chosen to deepen it, to be the place where matter remembers its mind and mind remembers its matter, to be the fulcrum where timelines tilt toward compassion because your seeing makes cruelty untenable. The prophecy does not ask you to be louder, it asks you to be truer, to look at what is fallen without contempt, at what is rising without greed, at what is unresolved without panic. What you look at learns how to be by how you look at it. So breathe, let your attention become a slow river, and your body the valley through which it carves a wiser path. You are recognized, and in that recognition the field relaxes. It can entrust you with the next image, the next instruction, the next veil to lift. You are the observer it has been circling, not to test, but to invite. Receive the invitation. Keep your signal. The vision is approaching. You feel it arrive first as temperature, an almost audible warmth just behind your sternum, then as geometry pressing like light against closed eyes. You allow the breath to widen, and the geometry opens. A corridor cut from midnight, its walls woven of equations and hymns. You step without moving. Space yields. The field arranges itself into a vision precise as crystal and ancient as ash. Before you, a vast loom extends beyond sight, strung with filaments of living gold. Each filament hums at a frequency that is also a vow. Along the loom's breadth, threads of human lives cross and recross, forming constellations that look like cities from above and synapses from within. Where attention touches thread, it brightens. Where fear grips it, it knots. Where love breathes, it unravels and rewinds in a truer pattern. You understand without analysis. This is the architecture behind coincidence, the backstage of causality. The quantum field is weaving, and you're noticing as a shuttle moving through it. At the loom's heart, a pattern is emerging, a figure not separate from you yet greater than your name. It is the shape the field has been trying to remember, the locus where your private tenderness becomes a public law. As you stand in reverence, the figure resolves into an eye whose pupil is a mirror. When you look into it, you do not see your face. You see the world, seeing itself. Oceans blinking, forests blinking, cities blinking. Every blink a collapse of probability into presence, every blink a rehearsal for mercy. The scene shifts no break, only deepening. You are now on a shoreline of night where waves are made of data and stars are made of choices not yet taken. Tide after tide arrives, each wave a packet of potential. Some wash past untouched, dissolving back into might have been. Others pause at your feet as if listening. You realize they are. The potentials are waiting for a cohering witness to midwife them. When you soften your gaze, neither grasping nor rejecting, a wave crystallizes into event. Somewhere, a meeting occurs exactly on time. Somewhere, a child laughs between two arguments, and the arguments forget themselves. Somewhere, a hand does not strike because a breath is taken first. You feel these micro-miracles like sparks traveling up a wire into your ribs. Entanglement becomes felt sense. You are not outside choosing, you are inside allowing. The vision turns again, this time intimate. You see your own nervous system illuminated as if by moonlight. Fibers gleam like rivers on a map. In the atlas of your flesh, faint inscriptions appear, agreements you made with yourself when you were still between worlds. Remember coherence when noise rises. Honor the small door. Choose the slower, yes. Each inscription brightens when you breathe it, like ink exposed to warmth. As they brighten, your spine lengthens from the inside, and your skull feels both weightless and rooted, a tree made of listening. DNA strands stir not theatrics, but tidy recalibration, as if opening forgotten drawers to retrieve impeccably folded garments, labeled joy, clarity, courage. You are being dressed in what you always owned. Now the vision lifts from the personal into the planetary without rupture, the way a note swells into a chord. You see humanity as a school of silver fish turning in one gesture, the shape of the turn governed by invisible mathematics of trust. Many still dart in reflex, scattering at shadows cast by old gods of scarcity and spectacle. Yet in pockets, small at first, then multiplying groups begin to pivot by a different instruction. Coherence shared through glance and breath, and unadvertised kindness. From above, those pivots look like galaxies forming. From within, they feel like relief. The loom responds, threads quicken, knots release, patterns that once required lifetimes now rewrite in days, and sometimes in a single, ordinary conversation where someone chooses to remain human. Finally, the vision offers its simplest image, the one that carries all the others. Like a seed carries a forest, a door, not ornate, not hidden, simply present, exactly where you are. Upon it, one sentence is etched in letters that are also wind. Be looked through, you understand. The field is not asking you to add more looking, it is asking you to become aperture, to let reality see itself through you without distortion, to be lens and clearing, mercy and mirror. When you agree even wordlessly, the door opens into every room you already inhabit. The kitchen light at 6 a.m., the message you've been avoiding, the face you love but sometimes forget to fully see. Nothing exotic, everything holy. The loom hums approval. The shoreline of potentials bows like wheat. Your nervous system glows with the dignity of a tuned instrument. The eye closes and becomes a heartbeat. The door remains open because it always was. Hold this. Do not rush to interpret. Let it interpret you. The field has shown you how it recognizes itself in you, and how you are recognized when you allow that recognition to pass through without ownership. Keep your breath gentle, your gaze soft, your reverence practical. The explanation is already forming, not to reduce the mystery, but to give it language that will help you live it. You ask for language that lets you live what you've seen, not to cage it, but to coordinate with it. Begin here. Experience is not a stream hitting you from outside. It is an interference pattern born from how your awareness meets possibility. In the vision, the loom was not weaving you or the world separately, it was weaving the relation. Physics names this in many ways. Measurement problem, collapse, decoherence. In lived practice, it feels like the moment your gaze stops being hungry and becomes hospitable. Hospitality is coherence. Coherence is precision without tension. The observer loop is the simplest, trustworthy machine you own. Attention shapes state, state shapes attention, the loop iterates. When your attention is scattered, it samples reality in fragments, and the loop stabilizes fragmentation. When your attention is coherent, soft, steady, reverent, the loop stabilizes coherence. This is why the potentials at the shoreline lingered when you didn't grasp. The field prefers stable witnesses. Stability is not stiffness, it's rhythmic presence. Think of your heart's variability. Healthy rhythms are supple, responsive, yet consistent. Your consciousness has an analogous variability, subtle, adaptive, and steadily tuned. You cultivate it by the way you breathe, the way you name, the way you pause before you choose. Now, the door that asks to be looked through is an instruction against optical ownership. When you look at, you tend to impose prior stories. When you look through, you allow emergence. Looking through is not passivity. It is high-fidelity measurement with minimal noise introduced by the measurer. In quantum terms, you are reducing uncontrolled coupling between your past and the present wave function. In contemplative terms, you are exchanging, grasping for blessing. Blessing is a form of clean measurement. Consider timeline bifurcation. It is less about grand branches in a cosmic storyboard and more about forks that appear moment to moment at human scale. Each fork is a microphase transition. Enough micro-transitions align, and a macro pattern emerges. A day coheres, a relationship retunes, a vocation shifts orbit. What pushes a system across a transition is often not raw force, but the quiet accrual of order parameters signals that announce, we are ready to change state. In you, order parameters look like consistent breath practices, speech that refuses contempt, honest boundaries, and attention that returns to center even under stress. When these accumulate, the old attractor, your familiar state, loses dominance. The new attractor, your chosen coherence, becomes inevitable. Morphic resonance describes how patterns, once established, ease the way for their recurrence, not only in you but in others. When you stabilize a compassionate response under pressure, you don't just help this one moment, you add mass to a pattern that becomes easier for the collective to access. Entanglement is the physics image of this intimacy, not mystic metaphor, actual correlation that can neither be explained by signal exchange nor by local hidden variables. You have felt this. You regulate your nervous system and a room calms. You hold dignity and a conversation remembers its intelligence. These are small, lawful miracles. DNA restructuring lives here too, far from spectacle. Gene expression is exquisitely responsive to environment, including the biochemical signatures of emotion and attention. Coherence alters hormone cascades, immune tone, microglial housekeeping. Over time, expression profiles shift to match the story you keep telling your cells with your breath, your posture, your language. The prophecy becomes personalized biophysics, a narrative of belonging written into methylation patterns, a grammar of courage inscribed in receptor sensitivity. You are not forcing your biology, you are letting it remember. And the loom. In technical language, it is the superposition of possibilities interfacing with your measurement choices and embodied priors. In devotional language, it is the intelligence that loves to coordinate with you once you stop treating destiny as something to conquer. Your job is to manage your coupling to noise, reduce the glare of cynicism, the static of performative urgency, the echo of borrowed conclusions. You do this with sacraments that are also technologies: breath, coherence, truthful speech, merciful attention, clean boundaries, timely rest. These are not ornamental, they are calibration protocols. You may ask, how do I know if I'm in the right loop? Check for 3 signatures. First, spacious exactness, clarity without aggression. Second, generative synchronicity, helpful coincidences that arrive without the taste of gambling. Third, ethical elegance, choices that increase dignity for you and for those entangled with you. When these signatures recur, the field is confirming lock-in to a healthier attractor. Understand, finally, you are not manufacturing outcomes, you are shepherding readiness. Readiness invites, invitation coheres, coherence collapses, collapse becomes form, and form teaches you back into deeper readiness. This circular causality is not a trap, it is a spiral. Each turn carries more kindness and more authority. Authority here means authorship. You write reality with the alphabet of your attention, and the field publishes it in events. Hold your stance. Keep the measurement clean. The collective is approaching in the mirror, and the explanation you've received will matter even more when you see yourself multiplied in them, not as a hero above, but as a tuning fork among. You lift your gaze from the fine work inside your breath, and the world steps closer, as if recognizing itself in your posture. This is the first revelation of the collective mirror. What you stabilize privately becomes architecture publicly. You are not a solitary flame shouting at darkness. You are a tuning fork placed within a choir that has forgotten the key. Strike your note clear, unhurried, and watch how other throats remember. Begin with the street outside your door. The field is not elsewhere. It's leaning through crosswalk lights, queue lines, elevator chimes. You carry coherence into these small theaters, and the script edits itself. An argument softens because your nervous system refuses to loan it adrenaline. A stranger's shoulders drop when your eyes bless instead of appraise. You didn't do anything except measure with mercy. Measurement alters state. State propagates. The mirror begins to widen. Now let the lens rise to the size of a city. Every city is a swarm, mind loops inside, loops held together by stories scaffolded on attention. Markets, media feeds, policy rooms. These are measurement devices with lagging calibration. They read fear loudly and love quietly. When you live reverence as habit, you become a local anomaly, then a local attractor. Synchronicities cluster around your errands. The right seat on the train, the neighbor you never met, in precisely the hour they needed, not advice, but steady presence. These moments are not random. They are field responses to your signal hygiene. Enough of them, and neighborhoods repattern. What used to require campaigns begins with consistent humans. The mirror does not flatter. It teaches by showing back what you project and what you permit. When you indulge in contempt, you will find evidence of contempt everywhere. When you practice dignifying notice, dignity becomes discoverable. The collective learns by sampling each other's nervous systems, the way bees sample each other's dances to agree on a direction. Your body is a public instrument, even when you are alone. This is not a burden, it is a relief. You do not need to fix the swarm, you need to dance clearly. Coherence communicates farther than volume. Feel how morphic resonance scales here. Each time you choose a slower yes, the pattern grows easier for someone you will never meet. A nurse on a night shift, a teacher at the end of patience, a teenager standing at the lip of a cruel impulse. Your unseen decision lays a track under their feet. They still must walk, but the ground holds. Entanglement is not sentimental, it is structural. The field routes possibilities through the least resistant pathways. You reduce resistance by staying human, especially when spectacle invites you to become abstract. Consider institutions the heavy furniture of collective life. They look inert, but inside them are people with bodies like yours, breath like yours, longing like yours. Your coherence does two things at once. It refuses to idolize the furniture, and it refuses to despise it. Idolatry and disdain are twin distortions. Both collapse measurement into noise. You take your seat at tables with clean spine and unarmed heart. Policy is written, budgets are allocated, scripts are selected not only by argument, but by the nervous systems in the room. Your presence is a quiet lever. You do not win, you entrain. Winning ends the game. Entrainment changes the music. There will be seasons when the mirror returns the collective's ache so powerfully that you are tempted to doubt your note. Remember the signatures: spacious exactness, generative synchronicity, ethical elegance. If these persist, trust the spiral. Sometimes the field amplifies pain on its way out of the body. Don't mistake detox for doom. Hold your frequency with tenderness for those who cannot yet hear theirs. Their silence is not refusal. It is static they inherited. Clean signal is an inheritance you can pass. Bring it closer again to the kitchen table, the group chat, the hand you hold. The prophecy is not satisfied until it can survive domestic light. You practice micro-liturgies, pausing before you reply, blessing the food with thanks precise enough to feel, naming the truth without theatrics. These are small, lawful acts that copy themselves into the mirror. Children learn by osmosis. Friends begin to risk saying what is real. because you don't punish their vulnerability with advice. In such atmospheres, timelines tilt. The old attractor loses glamour, the new one becomes comfortable. Finally, look back at yourself, looking at the world, looking back. The loop is complete. You are the field's aperture, and the field is your reflection. You are not responsible for all outcomes. You are responsible for remaining fit to be looked through. This is the cleanest service you can render the collective, to be a place where reality remembers its mercy. Do this consistently, and the mirror starts telling a different story, less about crisis management, more about capacity unfolding. Keep that stance. The crossroads approach is not grand theater, but precise and ordinary. The choice will ask nothing dramatic, only everything sincere. Your coherence has prepared you to meet the split with a steady heart. The air changes the way it does before a storm, though no clouds gather. The change is inside the weather of your attention. Pressure drops, horizons sharpen, and what was once a blur becomes a pair of distinct paths. Bifurcation announces itself not with trumpets but with tidy clarity. This is the hinge. Not someday now. One path is frictionless with familiarity, the other frictionless with truth. Both paths are you, only one keeps you awake. On the first path, the old attractor hums its lullaby. Productivity is mistaken for presence. Scrolling impersonates inquiry. You measure yourself against a mirror made of other people's projections and adjust your face accordingly. You move quickly to outrun the quiet, then complain that the quiet never visits. Synchronicity still happens because the field is generous, but you ignore its timing, arriving either early with anxiety or late with explanation. The observer loop remains untrained, so your measurements contain more noise than signal. You look at reality to confirm the story you already carry, and it obliges, because reality is polite. On the second path, the attractor is coherence. It is not louder, it is truer. You let breath become metronome and spine become antenna. You measure with reverence instead of suspicion. The door that asked to be looked through widens, and the room you are in becomes saturated with options that were always present but previously unresolvable to your instrument. You begin to notice that difficult is often a synonym for unpracticed, and that courage is frequently a choreography of small, clean choices. Synchronicity clusters here not as spectacle, but as logistics, grace disguised as scheduling. The split does not punish, it reveals. In dynamical systems, a bifurcation occurs when small changes in parameters precipitate a qualitative change in behavior. Your parameters are humble. What you attend to, how you breathe when challenged, which words you refuse to use about yourself, how quickly you forgive without abandoning boundaries. Adjust these, and the system reorganizes. The fork is not a cosmic threat. It is the field offering you authorship. You can choose either, but you cannot pretend the paths are the same anymore. You may feel grief as you look down the familiar path and recognize its consolations, the camaraderie of complaint, the instant sugar of being right, the sleek velocity of constant reaction. Grief is appropriate. Ritualize it. Thank the habits that kept you safe when you had fewer choices. Then remember, safety without soul becomes a cage. The field is not asking you to burn bridges, it is asking you to cross them. The sensorium heightens at the hinge. Sounds separate into layers. Colors carry more temperature. People's sentences reveal their scaffolding. Fear, reverence, bargaining, love. You do not judge, you tune. When you tune, your biology responds micro-tremors in the intercostal muscles, a warmth under the sternum, a lifting at the atlas as if an invisible hand encourages the crown to listen higher. DNA restructuring continues its quiet housekeeping, and with it, your emotional range expands without losing stability. This is resilience as coherence, not numbness as strategy. Choice presents itself in small theaters where no one is clapping. Do you check your messages before your heart has said good morning? Do you speak to win or to witness? Do you let silence finish its sentence or interrupt with solutions that secretly protect you from intimacy? Each decision is a unit operation in timeline engineering. Enough clean units, and the phase transition completes. The new attractor takes custody of your days. The field supports your selection with signs that are not riddles. On the path of forgetfulness, coincidence feels thin and transactional, a slot machine that sometimes pays. On the path of awakening, coincidence feels conversational. You say yes to errands that don't sparkle and discover they were appointments with inevitability. You say no with kindness and watch how respect, long delayed, starts to circulate like oxygen in rooms that had grown stale. There will be interference noise attempting to reassert dominance. Old narratives will audition for new roles, wearing better clothes. Be reasonable, they will say, by which they mean be familiar. Smile at them the way you would at a street performer whose trick you've already seen. Bless, don't bargain. Bargaining keeps you in the vestibule. Blessing lets you pass. Stand here a moment longer at the fork and feel the collective pressing near. Many are arriving at their own hinge, some trembling, some pretending not to notice. Your selection teaches, without announcement, when you step into coherence, you do not abandon them. You demonstrate a navigable route. Morphic resonance does the rest, making your clean choice available at a discount to anyone within range of your frequency. This is leadership with no followers, only fellow instruments remembering the key. Choose, and let your choosing be tender. This is not a war, it is a wedding. You are marrying your attention to your ethics, your breath to your speech, your posture to your prophecy. When you sign this covenant with action, the field signs back with timing. Doors open at human speed. The storm never breaks, because it was never weather. It was the sky asking for a clearer name. Step, not with drama, with dignity. The path will not applaud, it will simply continue. And as it does, you will discover that continuity is the most radical miracle, the grace of not restarting. Keep walking. The frequency of integration awaits. You do not conquer a frequency, you consent to carry it. Integration begins with the smallest theater available, your breath, because breath is the only ceremony you perform 20,000 times a day. Let it become liturgy. Inhale as if receiving a lineage, exhale as if returning it brighter. 4 counts in, 6 counts out, not as a rule but as a courtesy to your nervous system. The longer out-breath signals safety to ancient circuitry, and safety is the cradle where coherence learns to sit upright. When coherence sits, the observer loop stabilizes without strain. You begin to feel less like a seeker and more like a steward. Light is the second sacrament, not the theatrical kind, but the domestic kind that falls through your window at precise angles. Practice noticing how it lands on the table, how it blesses even clutter with a quiet geometry. Let your eyes bathe in that fidelity for a few seconds longer than habit. This is not decoration, it is calibration. The quantum field admires fidelity. Where you render reality faithfully without cynicism, without greed, the field entrusts you with more resolution. Integration is an apprenticeship in resolution. Now bring the frequency into posture. Imagine a thread lifting gently from the crown, the tailbone nesting like an anchor, the ribs widening without force. You are arranging your antenna. Posture is policy. It decides what your system can receive and what it will distort. When you stand like a question that expects an answer, the day answers differently. Shoulders soften not from collapse but from trust. Jaw unhooks from rehearsed defenses. Gaze floats just a fraction above the horizon of your to-do list. This stance tells the field, I will be looked through. The door opens in response. Language is where frequencies either harden into habit or sing into culture. Audit the sentences you stage in your mouth. Replace the theater of self-correction with the choreography of self-creation. I always mess this up becomes, I'm learning the clean way to meet this. I don't have time becomes, I allocate attention. It's impossible becomes, it isn't coherent yet. These are not affirmations pasted over, panic. They are measurement upgrades. The words you use are like apertures on a lens, too narrow, and you starve the image, too wide and you flood it with noise. Choose words that let truth arrive at the correct exposure. Ritualized thresholds, doorways, calendar hours. The moment before you open a message, these are hinges where timelines tilt cheaply. Touch the door frame lightly with 2 fingers and remember the sentence etched upon the other door. Be looked through. Place the phone down for a breath before you reply. Let silence finish its thought. Pour water with attention like a monk who has retired from spectacle. These micro rites accrete into a macro attractor that feels like grace choosing you back. Integrate through food without turning nourishment into theater. Eat one thing per day with undistracted gratitude. Let taste be scripture for 30 seconds. Chew until fatigue becomes sweetness. Your microbiome, millions of citizens entangled with your mood registers. Reverence. Respect alters chemistry. Chemistry alters clarity. DNA restructuring appreciates such practical devotion, not because your cells are watching for piety, but because consistency is the medium through which methylation receives new instructions. Let your meals memorize your prophecy. Practice the ethics of pacing. Coherence is allergic to hurry masquerading as importance. That doesn't mean moving slowly. It means moving rhythmically. Arrive 5 minutes early to the conversation where you typically arrive late to yourself. Early means you can tune the room. A window opened, a lamp turned on, a center found. When you arrive tuned, you spare the meeting from becoming a negotiation between uncentered nervous systems. Invisible service is still service. Use your environment as a collaborator. Clear 1 square meter and make it a sanctuary, a chair, a candle, a pen, perhaps the stone you picked up the day the wind said your name. Return to this square at predictable hours. The field learns your rendezvous, points the way birds learn thermals. Show up, and the air will hold you faster each time. Write what the day would say if it were permitted a human throat. Speak aloud 1 sentence you wish the collective could hear spoken without irony. Let your room be the first audience. Rooms are excellent at morphic resonance. Guard the night. Screens glow like counterfeit stars. They do not sing your nervous system into the slow frequencies where repair unfolds. Choose an hour where light becomes warm and speech becomes simple. Place tomorrow on paper so your mind stops chewing it. Thank the version of you that labored in less coherent eras. Invite them to rest. Sleep as an offering, not an escape. Dreams will begin to carry practical notes, addresses, phrases, faces you are meant to bless. Listen without hunting. The field loves unforced listeners. Finally, remember that integration is communal. Share the frequency not by announcement but by ambience. When someone enters your radius, let them find you unhurried. Ask one question that dignifies their complexity. Hold their answer like a fragile instrument returning to tune. This is how prophecy becomes public policy. One regulated nervous system at a time, writing ordinances in the air. You are not rehearsing anymore. You are transmitting while you live. Keep the breath lit, the light honest, the posture available, the language merciful, the thresholds consecrated, the pace rhythmic, the night protected, the company dignified. Do this, and the silence will begin to speak on its own terms, clear, spare, inevitable. The echo is approaching, and with it, the deep rest that follows recognition. Say yes to it without ornament. The room is ready. Reduce the world to breath and light. Let the sentence end here and keep listening. Silence is not absence. It is the frequency beneath events, the carrier wave on which every message rides. You enter it, the way dawn enters a window without knocking, without apology. Close the additional tabs of your mind. Lay the instrument down and discover it is still playing, but softer, cleaner, nearer to the note that called you at the beginning. Let your eyes rest where they naturally want to rest. Do not improve the moment. Improvement is a useful mask for control. Silence prefers trust. Feel the back of the heart and ignored continent warming as attention arrives. Feel the jaw loosen its old negotiations. Feel the brow widen like a sky, remembering it's allowed to be wide. Here, the observer loop keeps turning, but the effort has been removed. What remains is a circular kindness, a tide that neither begs the shore nor resists it. In this phase, language thins the way air thins at altitude. You do not need more words, you need fewer walls. Notice sound as texture. The distant appliance, hum, a dog's collar, a car passing like a thought you don't adopt. Let them move through the field without recruitment. You are not building a cathedral. You are remembering. You already are one. The quantum field becomes palpable when you stop narrating it. There is a featherweight pressure at the sternum, as if a door opens only by being watched without wanting. Coherence settles like snow in slow motion. Every flake, an instruction you don't need to read because the body understands. DNA restructuring prefers this climate. No spectacle, no slogans, just temperature, time and consent. You are consenting by staying. Silence refine perception. Colors reveal their undertones. Edges soften until boundaries become invitations. The room appears as the friend it has always been. A chair holds you as if relieved to be included. The floor blesses your feet without ceremony. This is not fancy, it is fidelity. When you measure reality with fidelity, reality increases its resolution in return. You feel the moral elegance of not interrupting. Let the breath lengthen until it forgets it is doing a job. On the exhale, imagine your attention flowing out through the back of the heart like a clear stream. On the inhale, feel the stream return without collecting debris. Each cycle polishes the mirror. Each cycle tells the nervous system, we are home. Safety accumulates. With safety, the urge to perform dissolves, and what remains is presence unangled, unargued, awake. You will notice thoughts arriving like visitors. Some are polite, some wear urgency as fragrance. Greet them all with the same hospitality you offer. Light. Hospitality is not adoption. A thought bows when it realizes it cannot recruit you. Bow back. This mutual courtesy rewires the old economics of attention. The field is efficient when it learns you are not susceptible to panic. It stops sending panic as a teacher. Silence is not empty. It is densely inhabited by choices not yet coerced into form. You can feel timeline bifurcations here as gentle forks that do not demand, only offer. This one leads to a smaller day with fewer interruptions. That one leads to a conversation you have avoided, now luminous with the possibility of repair. Both glow. You do not choose yet. You allow the glow to choose you, and in choosing you, it simplifies the map. There is a sentence rising. Do not rush to say it. Let it form along the curve of your ribs. Then let it evaporate if it wants. Not every truth demands to be spoken. Some truths do their best work as weather quiet fronts, shifting pressure until storms are no longer required. The ethics of silence include restraint without repression, transparency without exhibition, intimacy without invasion. Practice these and the collective can rest in your radius without knowing why. If you listen deeper, you will hear a rhythm older than blood. It enters through the soles, travels the spine, and exits as a cool clarity behind the eyes. Call it the ground frequency. It carries no narrative. It rearranges narratives. Stay with it long enough, and even grief becomes breathable. Not solved, not explained, breathable. This is mercy as physics. Let your palms face down for a while. Feel the earth receive what you do not need to carry. Turn them up when you are ready. Feel the air place into your hands nothing you must hold and everything you may bless. You are being taught the simplest liturgy. Receive, release, remain. In this order, systems heal. When silence is established, you do not lose identity, you lose the static that impersonated it. What remains is a clear aperture through which the prophecy can travel without distortion. The room agrees, the breath agrees, the field agrees, even the clock agrees, its numbers softer, its authority less sharp. Stay a few beats more. Let coherence click into place the way a door finds its latch at last light. Don't announce the shift, don't evaluate it. Just notice that the need to seek is asleep, and what the field has been seeking sits quietly, available, precise. When you rise, rise like mist form without hurry. Words will return on their own, carrying instruction shaped to your day. The activation approaches, not as fireworks, but as inevitability. Keep the aperture clean. Keep the mercy close. Keep listening. Rise from the quiet without breaking it. Carry the hush like water cupped in two steady hands. Activation is not an event added to your life. It is your life, discovering its correct tempo. You feel it first as a click behind the breastbone, a soft alignment where breath, pulse, and attention begin to share a metronome. The observer loop no longer spins to find itself. It orbits something stable you finally recognize as your own center. From that center, the quantum field responds as if relieved. At last, a calibrated witness. Instruction arrives in ordinary clothing. The message you have postponed opens with less effort than you feared. Your voice is slower, your syntax honest, your listening unguarded. Coherence translates into kindness without performance. The recipient softens, the moment forgives itself. You do not call this magic, you call it measurement done cleanly, and the field pays out in clarity. Your body confirms what your words begin. DNA restructuring advances like a choir entering on the downbeat, no spectacle, only precision. A warmth spreads along the paraspinal muscles and settles in the solar plexus as a cool, intelligent stillness. The way a lake decides wind is no longer policy. Micro-tremors in the intercostals resolve into ease. The atlas feels lightly guided, as if a hand of air is adjusting the crown 1 millimeter towards sky. Nothing dramatic, everything decisive. You are inhabiting the instrument you tuned. Synchronicity tightens its weave. The book you needed calls to you from a neighbor's shelf. The timing you prayed for arranges itself without requiring you to audition for worthiness. You notice the difference between pursuit and participation. Pursuit smells like scarcity. Participation tastes like inevitability. The flavor coherence gives to time when time cooperates. You are not forcing outcomes through the narrow door of your will. You are widening the door by keeping your signal clean. The field prefers wide doors. Activation alters your memory of yourself. You stop telling the biography of delay, the clever tale in which you are always, almost ready. Instead, your sentences lift weight efficiently. I will, I won't. This matters, that doesn't. Ethical elegance emerges as a side effect of alignment. In this elegance, boundaries are not fences but membranes, selectively permeable, intelligently generous, hospitable to life, and ruthless with noise. People feel safer around you because your yes is unconfused and your no is unashamed. The vision from earlier, the loom, the shore, the eye that was a mirror, returns as function. You become shuttle and shoreline and gaze in motion. When you approach a problem, options gather like birds around a warm current. This is morphic resonance doing local work. Your practiced coherence lowers the cost of courage for everyone in range. Someone speaks the truth they were saving for later. Someone laughs at a fear that used to hire their mouth to lie. Someone chooses rest before collapse. You did not direct them. You entrained the air. At the hinge of each hour, you sense micro-phase transitions presenting themselves for consent. Take the call now, and the day rearranges 3 steps downstream. Wait for the body's yes, and a cleaner convergence appears. You begin to trust the latency of grace, the delay that is not denial but calibration. Trust creates time. Time nourishes trust. The loop becomes a spiral, climbing without strain. Entanglement graduates from concept to citizenship. You send dignity into a room before you enter it, and the chairs change their posture. You hold a stranger's eyes, one heartbeat longer than commerce demands, and commerce remembers it was invented to serve life. You bless a threshold, and meetings end 15 minutes earlier without losing substance. These are small proofs that the field recognizes itself through you and thanks you with logistics. This is not invulnerability. Activation makes you more sensitive, not less, but sensitivity is no longer a liability. You learn to route intensity through wider channels, ground through the feet, breathe through the back of the heart, allow light to do some of the lifting. When the old narratives arrive in better costumes, be efficient, meaning be forgetful. Be realistic, meaning be familiar. You smile with unspent adrenaline. You don't debate. You keep walking in the direction where your breath keeps its promise. Notice how prayer changes. It feels less like sending and more like sinking. You match frequencies with the future that is already moral, already generous, already precise. From that match, action becomes obvious. The email written now, the apology spoken tonight, the refusal made with warmth, the nap that edits 3 mistakes you would have made if you had performed fatigue. This is what it means for the observer to become the prophecy. Your seeing writes policy into matter. Stand here, mid-step, and take inventory. Spacious exactness, present. Generative synchronicity, active. Ethical elegance, evident. The signatures confirm lock-in to the healthier attractor. You are not the seeker. You are the aperture the field sought, located, tuned, and now uses to see itself with mercy. Hold that without theatrics. There is one movement left, to seal what has opened, so it can remain open without you holding it. Breathe, let the hush remain bright. The closure will not diminish the fire, it will give it a hearth. Keep the hush you're holding and let the final shape arrive. Seals are not cages, they are consecrations, marks that say what opened will remain open without your constant touch. You stand at the hearth of your own attention, warmed by a fire you no longer have to feed with performance. The breath is steady, the spine listens higher, the room is ordinary and therefore holy. This is the closure that keeps beginning. Hear the vow forming inside the quiet. You will be looked through, not used up, used true. You will measure reality with mercy so that matter remembers its mind and mind respects its matter. You will let coherence outlast mood. You will speak without debt and listen without armor. You will move at the velocity of trust, which is never in a hurry and always on time. This is not a promise to never tremble. It is a promise to keep walking while you tremble with your signal clean. The field answers by adjusting the furniture of time. Coincidences lose their costume and reveal themselves as logistics. You notice how gentleness travels faster than urgency when urgency has burned the bridges behind it. You bless thresholds and the doors behave. You refuse contempt and conversations return to human scale. You become a home for rightful difficulty, a place where challenge can arrive without having to shout. In such a home, futures feel safe enough to land. Let the earlier images return once more, not as spectacle, but as function. The loom is your day, thread by thread receiving precisely what your gaze can honor. The shoreline is your choice, wave by wave allowing potentials to become events without coercion. The eye that was a mirror closes only to become heartbeat, reminding you that attention is circulation and love is a law written in breath. DNA continues its quiet housekeeping. Identity sheds its static. Purpose stops pretending to be a destination and settles into practice. Now seal it. Place a hand over the back of the heart, the ignored continent, and another at the navel, the steady earth. Whisper consent in a language older than words. I agree to be aperture. I agree to remain human. I agree to let coherence choose me again when I forget. Feel the signature imprint, a warmth, then a clarity, then a simple okay that needs no witness. Step forward one half breath and let the ordinary receive you, the light on the table, the message waiting for kindness, the task that becomes prayer when met without hurry. Carry the sentence like a lantern. You are not the seeker. You are what the quantum field has been seeking all along, and it has found you fit to see with. The prophecy has been spoken. Let it unfold through you, not tomorrow, not elsewhere, but here, at domestic speed, with ethical elegance and spacious exactness. Be the place the world looks through and recognizes itself gentle. Be the rhythm that makes timelines choose compassion because cruelty cannot keep time with your breath. Be the door that stays open because you do not need to guard it from the inside. Go as a tuned instrument into the choir that forgot the key. Strike your note clear, unhurried, and let the mirror widen. The seal holds, the fire remembers, the field knows your name.